Where's my stuff? Hold on.
And when they went to the queen to tell her her subjects had no bread, do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Who took the bomb?
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people.
Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of the Peasant's Perspective. I'm so glad to have you guys with me this morning. How great is this? Oh man, it's not a lot of you here with me this morning. Let's see, what do we got? We got Frazier in the house. Good morning from Boise. We got Carlitz. Good morning, y'all. And I've got to send Ron a link. Because who knows? Maybe today's the day. He finally can figure out how to get himself on. I gotta send him a link. Hold on, give me 1 second. I forgot to do this before we started the show. Totally worth doing. Ron, it's coming inbound if you're listening. So, all right, guys. John Attaka says, getting ready for another great 8-year-old trip. Ooh, whose 8-year-old trip is it this year? That's fun. That's really fun. The 8-year-old trips are the best. My parents started a tradition where they take their grandkids out when they turn 8 years old. They take them on some road trip somewhere, and my kids all enjoy it, and they all talk to each other. It's kind of like a little rite of passage for an 8-year-old. It's really kind of fun. So that's very fun. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, I know why you guys show up bright and early every morning. Hello? Okay, I'm back. Okay, so I'm having some technical issues. Can somebody chat confirm that I'm still here? I literally logged out for a second there. That was really weird. Okay, I'm still here. I'm not leaving anywhere. Okay, have sound again. Okay, we're good. Good morning, peasants. Good morning, Doug. Gotcha, Pony Boy. Okay, we're good. Shantini, hello. Xander. Oh, that's fun. Good morning, Shantini. You're back. New name. Maui Mamat 4. See you. Oh, great. Sounds good. Okay, great. All right, I'm back. I'm gonna get back on track. Wow, that was intense. That was really intense. What happened there? So somehow I don't know. I logged out and I came back and you guys were still here. I literally went into my history and reopened the same tab so I didn't have to log back in, and I came back. So that was crisis averted. It would stink to have to reboot this all of a sudden. Oh, there's a reason why I have my co-host Ron with me most of the time. Okay, give me just a second here. Still need more time because when I logged out, everything discombobulated on me, and that is no fun. Nobody likes that, right? Okay, here we go. Okay. Whew, this is getting like a panic mode over here. Okay, I know why you're here, the simultaneous sip. Thanks so much, you guys, for sticking around for that little crisis. That was rough. I know why you're here, the simultaneous sip, and all you need is a cup or a mug or a glass, a tankard, a chalice, a stein, a canteen, jug, or flask, a vessel of any kind. Fill it with your favorite liquid. I like coffee. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure of the dopamine hit of the day, the thing that makes everything better. It's the simultaneous sip, and it starts right now. And let's take a listen to Anna Kasparian.
Thing that I think the conservative Americans were correct about, especially as it pertained to the pandemic, was questioning authority and questioning our institutions. When the pandemic began, I had too much trust in our institutions. I have now switched over to having zero trust in our institutions. And when you have zero trust in our institutions, you're more likely to land at the accurate information. The one thing
Accurate
that I think
doesn't mean you're going to win the argument, but you might have the accurate information. That is true. Anna Kasparian, the one thing I will say about her, I don't know how old she is. I get the sense that we're probably around the same age. Again, I don't know how old she is, but I get the sense we're probably around the same age. And we kind of came out of that same, our entire adult life has been dominated by post 9/11 politics. And so I think she's in that same mindset. I just think her coming around has taken a little longer, right? I'm going to share some things today with you guys about kind of the economic situation. And it's kind of like a repeat of what it's been. Okay. And I'm going to share with you guys why I think, especially older conservatives, I hate to use the term derogatory, but like boomer conservatives sometimes don't quite internalize the plight of the younger generations that lead to kind of these socialist uprisings over time, and how that gets taken advantage of. And it's really easily preventable with just a couple good policies, but those policies are so hard to get people to, do. Okay, another thing going on this morning, and this is excellent news. So Rand Paul over in the Senate has decided to continue on with holding Anthony Fauci in contempt. So this is wonderful news, and this is Rand Paul kind of making an opening statement on a contempt vote today against Anthony Fauci.
8 days ago, Dr. Anthony Fauci sat before this committee in the witness chair under subpoena for conduct covered by the President Biden's full and unconditional pardon, reaching back to 2014. Dr. Fauci faced no risk of federal prosecution. All he had to do was tell the truth. More than 100 times, though, he refused. The chair ruled that Dr. Fauci's assertion of the Fifth Amendment privilege was unsupported in light of the pardon and the testimony he offered in his opening statement. The chair directed Anthony Fauci to answer. He refused again. That is what we are voting on today. 8 days ago, Dr. Anthony Fauci sat before this committee.
That's what they're voting on. He didn't. And actually, I agree with the legal assessment. His opening statement essentially waived his Fifth Amendment right, but I disagree with the fact. Well, it's correct. His opening statement waived his Fifth Amendment right because he presented claims, statements, things that you would have to present evidence and make argument to prove. You can't do that when you take the Fifth Amendment. Fifth Amendment, you don't answer any questions at all. You don't provide information. So I agree with that. But yeah, he's going to be held in contempt. They're not letting go of that one, which is smart, right? If you were to ask me, if you were to ask me, right, what is the measure of response for someone who was involved in the COVID narrative on the media side of things and someone who was uninvolved in any type of conspiracy whatsoever, right? The Anna Kasparians of the world. You just trust the institutions. All of us trusted the institutions. I was raised in a household that very much trusted the institutions. Okay. It's totally normal for people to want to trust the institutions, especially in America. We built the system, right? Of course, we project what did we listen to yesterday on the podcast? The social safety net system was built in some cases almost 100 years ago in a frankly more virtuous, honest society. And it was an honor system, right? People believed other people would be honest. And so the system is easy to take advantage of. Absolutely easy to take advantage of. I got to be honest with you. This is some of the things that come up, like those little observations yesterday, that the one half of the Obamacare program is people who do not qualify at all, which means they got their applications through fraudulently. Like, this is an incredible thing here. And going through my career, I found myself in a couple specific different careers where there was a lot of paperwork. One of the things was mortgage loans, and the other one was insurance. Now, I didn't ever hang my insurance license anywhere, but the reason I got my insurance license, I have family who do that business. It's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of checking boxes, and it's incredibly easy. It's incredibly easy for a loan officer or an insurance officer to check a box that's not really true that will get the application to the next desk, especially when there's no follow-up on certain things, right? When we did loans, as a loan officer, we were being trained to do this. And I felt like this was, I don't know if it's mortgage fraud. It's just kind of deceptive in its entirety. But, if we were applying for certain loans, we would fudge the numbers up based on, this loan right here, they don't do verification of income. You just tell them how much you make and they just take your word for it. So on this one, we're going to put your income really high. Oh, this one, they do verification of income. You have to provide tax returns. So you better put the correct number. Oh, this one right here, they do VOE. So verification of employment. So, you actually have to have a job and a front desk that's going to answer the phone. Oh, you don't have a job? Oh, but we're getting a loan that does VOE. Okay, well, give me the number of your brother. And let's say you work for his landscaping company. Here's the phone number. And you put it, okay, make sure they tell them that you work for them, because they're not going to verify your income. They're just going to verify your employment. Like, it was a game, right? It was just a game. And COVID was one of those things where it was like, this was major impact. So in a world where everything's kind of a game, things like climate, health and safety, like the natural world become the enemy, because we're all overplaying the game and the natural world can take us out. So COVID comes along and it has the capacity. COVID was really unique. It's a bioweapon, right? It had the capacity to kind of get people's attention from all spectrums. And everybody came and looked and go, am I at risk? Am I going to get a virus? And depending on what news source you looked at or who your trusted advisors were, who your influencers were, you were going to get different opinions. For the vast majority of the public, the Americans, who did they look to? Let's look to the CDC, the NIH, the FDA, the USDA. We have a whole slew of regulatory agencies that their entire job, the whole reason our grandparents created these institutions was to protect us. So COVID comes along that can get everybody's attention. And what do? Most people follow along. Stephen A. Smith, right? Basketball commentator. He's made a great living. He's an American success story to the extent that, he's pulled himself out of whatever situation he's in. And I promise you, he's worth more money today than when he was 18 years old, right? He's done very well for himself. And he went out on a limb and he supported the science and he supported the mainstream narrative, because who wouldn't trust the narrative? Well, how'd that work out for you, Stephen A. Smith? How did it work out for you trusting Dr. Fauci? How did you feel when he got up there? How did you feel when he got up there and took the fifth to questions about things that you followed through with based on his advice?
Do I think that he should be embarrassed for the self-adulation that he engaged in? Yeah. You damn right I do.
Me too. I think so too.
Because some of the things that he was telling us to do was inconsistent with science, but he was telling us it was science that led to him making the decisions that he made.
I kept trying to
masking, 6 feet distancing.
I know.
The closing those businesses.
Yeah.
Forcing businesses to push those mandates upon people like me and others.
It wasn't fair.
Because I took the vaccine.
Oh, I didn't.
And I took a booster. And I wore a mask.
How'd that work out for you?
And we were told, hey, you ain't going to get COVID if you do that. And I got COVID.
You did?
And damn it, it almost killed me. Going into 2022, I'm in the hospital 90 minutes before the ball is about to drop. And the doctor says, we've been at this for 3+ weeks. You got double pneumonia. You look really bad. If this antibiotic and this steroid does not work, Mr. Smith, I'm sorry, we're going to have to call your family. It looks that bad, but we should know in 3 hours. And through the grace of God, 3 hours later, I felt better after they gave me that steroid and that antibiotic.
But the vaccine didn't help you?
But those were the longest 3 hours of my life because I thought it was over.
Vaccine didn't help?
And I remember I had done exactly what Dr. Anthony Fauci was imploring us all to do.
You got the vaccine and you still got COVID and almost died. Man, what an experience, Stephen A. Smith. How do you guys might like my little back and forth with the video? Does that kind of liven things up? Is that kind of fun? All right, so Stephen A. Smith, right? Of all the people that are out there, And I don't agree with Stephen A. Smith on a lot of stuff, but he's just a normal dude. Like sometimes when I watch him, I have so many memories of prison because that's really when I started seeing a lot of Stephen A. Smith because of all the black guys watching all the sports shows. He's ubiquitous. He's everywhere. Like this is the black guy, Sean Hannity, right here. Okay, like he's very influential. So when he goes, he's a sports commentator. So when he goes off on anything dealing with politics, obviously there's a lot of people that think he might be a front runner for not a front runner, but he's an outside shot to maybe put his name on a ballot and run for president or something like that. But he was sucked into the narrative, right? The media world, the people he worked for told him to get the vaccine. Anthony Fauci becomes that validator for them. Oh, look, here's the expert. Of course, Anthony Fauci controls the entire medical industry with regards to this. And that's the thing. Over the years, we have found out, the censorship. YouTube admitted they deleted, was it over a million accounts, YouTube accounts that were spreading COVID narratives? 1 million? Think about how many views of what could have been the truth, probably was the truth, from being disseminated. How many people did lose their lives or at a minimum, inconvenience themselves because Anthony Fauci had some type of fever dream. Now, the interesting thing in this, and this is where I think it's almost like a case study for us. Like we can kind of see how COVID developed and we can see it, but there was also a madness. I've mentioned this many, many times. I remember reading, one of the reports. It was in 2020, summer of 2020, and crazy stuff was going on. And some, bombshell medical report came out that was basically like, COVID's not really a threat. The death rate is extremely low. This is what Anthony Fauci mentioned, 0.02%. And he was telling the world it was 2 or 3 or 4%, these are astronomically different numbers, a magnitude difference. And I was like, okay, the fever dream's going to end because nobody in their right mind would lock down their businesses and continue the lockdown. Nobody in their right mind would, take any further action other than to say, hey, we have a new strain of a cold moving through. Now, COVID could be very serious. Certain people, and there's aggregating factors, like if you got the vaccine or not, seems to be an aggregating factor for people's intensity of COVID. But nonetheless, let's just, concede the premise, COVID's real, circulating bioweapon. That's the whole thing there. Right? There's a lot of people that just completely flipped everything. And I get it. This is part of waking up. Like if you're high trust and you trust the government and then you realize the government lies, you're like, well, if they're lying to me, what else would they lie to me about? If you're watching a news channel and you trust them, like I used to trust CNN. And then one day I'm like, they didn't cite a single source or have a reference. And this is like treasonous type Russiagate nonsense. I just couldn't see it. I couldn't connect the dots myself. I was like, I'm being spoon fed. This is propaganda. Delete. But most people don't, right? They move along with the narrative. They don't know their own principles. And so they end up being in the current and they just kind of go with what's ever popular. This is a tale as old as time, right? Think about Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert made his bones as a comedic political pundit. Right? He impersonated Bill O'Reilly is what he was doing. And he would basically hyperbolically, rhetorically, Socratically make fun of conservatives by asking dumb conservative questions to whoever his guests were. And he did the Stephen Colbert Show. Well, eventually he dropped the mask and he just became the leftist Stephen Colbert, who's really good at jabbing at the right. Okay. And leftists, and this not really leftists, it's that leftism infiltrated what would be considered kind of more classical liberalisms or just liberals in general, not in the derogatory sense. We're talking in the Thomas Jefferson sense, right? They infiltrated them. And Jeffersonian leftists, right, in a very true sense, are just, skeptical, not necessarily trusting, verification kind of stuff. Progressive science, new evidence leads, they just kind of have this, the utopic political idea that we all believe that our political ideology is Jeffersonian liberalism is what we all strive to and very rarely achieve. So here's Stephen Colbert, who's clearly in the stream of it. Like, I don't even look at him and think to myself, oh, he's a communist. Oh, he's got a copy of the manifesto, on his cell phone. I don't even think that. Like, I don't think that's what's going on with this guy. I think this is a guy that's just very well paid, nice neighborhoods, lots of parties, lots of, adulation. I mean, he's a typical actor, comedian, commentator. Remember in 2020, before the vaccines were released, when Trump was in the White House, they were making fun of people who might take one of Trump's dumb vaccines. Fast forward to 2021, he's dancing around with it.
Some folks are skeptical. Thankfully, Big Pharma has come up with a way to reassure the public about their motives, and it's all in their new ad.
Are you worried about the future? Unable to sleep at night? Afraid that pharma companies will put their profits ahead of your health? If you are concerned about the cost of a vaccine, ask your doctor about Vaxilax. Vaxilax is the only medication proven to reduce anxiety about Big Pharma taking advantage of you in a national crisis. You can trust Vaxilax because of its mascot, Professor Cashington, the ethical money sack.
Side effects of Vaxilax include legless rest syndrome, kidney rhinestones, crumblefoot, spontaneous beard sparrows, the galloping hoop sticks, spinal crunch wrapping, Ferdinand's flopsy, big old pink face, Gordon's fisherman syndrome, scrotal yodas, chronic vaccine resistance, facial graham crackering, full-blown coronavirus, and dollar bills, y'all.
Okay. I took a lot of time to set up this video. The flip-flop. Here is a person who on TV, through satire and comedy, is making fun of people who are going to take a virus, you know, because you can trust it. Look at the logo. You can trust the logo. This is like Idiocracy, where it's like, well, the plants need electrolytes, and where do they get electrolytes from? This Gatorade, and where does because they have electrolytes. It's like circular logic, okay? Making fun of. Great. Keep that attitude. Millions of people might have had their lives saved if you just kept the attitude. You guys are trying to make a bunch of money off us. We don't need the vaccine. COVID's just a cold. You know, natural immunity. Let's do it. Nope. Fast forward 1 year. From July 2020, he's making fun of people who are going to take the vaccine because it's so patently obvious what they're going to be doing to you. Look at bad man Trump. He's in office. Their guy Biden gets in office, and suddenly...
the vaccine.
You guys remember this? Oh, yeah. For you audio listeners, this is him dancing around with a bunch of syringes. Absolutely retarded. So there you have it, right? You had this high trust in institutions that came out of nowhere. That's the crazy part about it. It kind of came out of nowhere. It weaponized the virtue of ordinary, everyday Americans who don't pay attention. Stephen Colbert was someone who paid attention to big corporate world and their malfeasances. Apparently wasn't looking at government unless Republicans were in charge. When Republicans are in charge, all of a sudden you flip. And Anna Kasparian, isn't it funny that, you know, the entire time Trump's in charge, COVID, you had too much trust in government. 8 years later, after a 4-year Trump term, with you jumping on the bandwagon, and I'm speaking to Anna Kasparian now. You know, 4 years later, after Trump being totally persecuted during his presidency, and you taking every debate position possible to obstruct his agenda, and then 4 years of Biden, where you had your candy list, wish list of everything you could possibly want from a politician, policy-wise, with one exception. You know, some hyperbolic support for Israel. Oh my gosh. And then Trump comes back in, and all of a sudden you're looking at things going, oh yeah, no, I trusted government way too much. The whole COVID thing was a scam. They hate to be on the wrong side of the winning side, right? They're coming over. People are right to mistrust everything. One of the things I love about Tomas Day that said, good morning, is don't trust, verify, right? Don't trust, verify. The best approach to everything in life is don't trust, verify, especially when there's major consequences on the line. Dealing with your money, dealing with your health, dealing with end of life, dealing with birth, dealing with everything. Robert Kennedy Jr. did a press conference yesterday that was stunning. Now, this story has been evolving and developing over a number of years now. And it actually is kind of one of those things of nightmares. And it's one of those things that is a result of a lot of anecdotal things that over time start to kind of compound. And eventually you get so many of these anecdotal stories, you start to go, where there's some smoke, there might be some fire. So there started to be some investigations into organ donoring, the organ donor system and the harvesting of organs. And there's obvious requirements. Like, medical science has advanced so much that someone on their deathbed, due to an unfortunate situation for one is a fortunate situation for another, you could potentially save another life in the passing of your own through organ donating. And there's scenarios like that where it seems compassionate and reasonable. These are, don't need to go into the details. It's a personal choice if you want to do it or not. But clearly there is a well-validated argument for organ donating, and to the recipients of organs that it extends their life. It is a absolute gift and a godsend. So on one hand, medical science has really gifted us with some incredible ability to make lemon out of lemonades, if you know what I'm saying, with the organ donor program. And so, but there are horror stories. What if my life extension is the ending of another life that could still live? Well, RFK and his task force have looked into this, and it was so bad what they found in Kentucky that they actually had to remove the accreditation for the whole organ donating system. So this is RFK discussing the things they found when they went digging into this. And they gave them multiple chances to correct it, by the way.
Found persistent patient safety failures despite repeated oversight, repeated warnings, corrective action plans, and multiple opportunities to improve. Federal reviewers found serious deficiencies in nearly 30% of the cases that they examined. We found patients placed on the organ donation pathway who should have never been there. We found cases with the donation process continued despite signs that patients were not appropriate organ donors. We found repeated failures in clinical judgment, oversight, and patient safety. And we found that these problems continued even after the organization promised to correct them. These failures had real consequences. One of those cases involved TJ Hoover. TJ showed signs of awareness while on the operating table about to have his organs removed. Physicians refused to proceed with the organ recovery because they believed that he was still alive. Because they acted, TJ is alive and is here with us today. TJ, we are grateful that you're here, and we're grateful to those physicians who had the courage to do the right thing.
He was alive. I'm not dead yet. Bring out your dad. I'm not dead yet. Bop. That's what this has been a problem going on a long time. You can go back to England when you had the grave robbers to get cadavers, and then pretty soon they were like, oh, that's easier just to kill people than to dig 6 feet deep and get a fresh cadaver. There's security around these cemeteries nowadays. They're hip to us. Let's just go kill a wino. And that's kind of what that feels like. So this needs to be taken care of. I mean, this is murder, essentially what it is. It was 33% of cases, 1 in 3 chance that if you were an organ donor, they might take your life to get your organs. This is huge. I wish Ron was in here to be like, or maybe we have become so desensitized to the horrors of the 21st century. We just look at this and we're like, oh yeah, of course they're going to try to rip your organs out, and it makes all those quote unquote, and I'm using the narrative slander against non-organ donors, right? All those selfish wackos who don't want to, save a life. It puts all of their worst nightmares and phobias and fears right to the surface. He literally had a press conference with a dude who was on the operating table, and I'm saying it jokingly. I'm not dead yet. I think this guy's alive. Should we start ripping him apart? I don't know. Let's try to revive him, or whatever. Here he is at a press conference. There was another woman that was brought up in the press conference that shared an experience about her brother, similar thing. I mean, it's like some of this stuff was absolutely bonkers. I mean, it was like, these people aren't dead. They just have the right blood type. It was like that it was that ridiculous. Unbelievable. Do never trust, verify. We should be able to see transparency in every step of anything that involves us at all, right? That's the whole thing. Our rights create obligations. I have to protect my rights. I'm looking around and I'm like, I don't know that you guys are really protecting my rights. John Attacker says, great day in Idaho. Thundering Oak. OMG, that is terrifying. I know, right? It's totally terrifying. Xanax got an email there. I don't know what you want with that. Happy, Pray the Rosary Daily says, happy Thursday. Thundering Oak says, good morning, folks. And Thomas Day confirmed, I can hear you. I'm going backwards up in time. God's Army Brat 9444 says, took it off my license in 2020. Tell your family your wishes. Do not put it in writing. That's actually really good. Tell your family your wishes. If that's God's Army Brat, that is brilliant. If you want to be an organ donor, don't tell the state, okay? Do not tell the license agencies. Don't tell anybody. Write it on a napkin, hand it to your next of kin, whoever you would trust with those decisions, and say, go ahead and authorize it. Get a power of attorney, give it to someone. Let them be authorized to do it. Don't let the state be authorized. That is excellent. Because you can always, the next of kin can always say, yeah, we have power of attorney and we want to do that, or he's dead, and they make the determination. But that's great. Yeah. It is one of those things, man. Sometimes, listen, I've met people who have been recipients of organ transplants, and I've also met people who have given organs to actually strangers, which was kind of crazy. Kidney in that case. So it can be an absolute lifesaver, but not when you're, not dead yet. It's something that is a big deal. Okay. So next thing, and this is where I want to get kind of serious with the theme that we've been going with for a couple weeks, and really for me, it's been most of my adult life, is the individualism, collectivism thing. And when it comes to the conditions that make people question what is, right? What is this concept of cognitive dissonance? Cognitive dissonance is you're told one thing, but the reality, or you believe or know or think one thing, but the reality that you observe is different. The two things can't be held together, right? There's a disparity going on. And so a lot of times what happens is we kind of go through life. Most of our universe and our world around us is a construct. Most of what we interact with are man-made things, property lines that are construct, boundaries that are construct, rules that are made up, like what is money? It's our belief in exchange. It's like all these constructs, things we made. But the natural world operates, pretty solid. And when we talk about economics and the laws of supply and demand, once you introduce a marketplace, it has a law of nature to it. Okay. It has a law of nature to it. And so when what you observe in the real world, right? For example, you can't always measure wealth in dollars. You measure wealth in things like capacity. How long can you go without having to provide for daily survival items? Like you can kind of change the metrics. So there's wealth, which is, I don't worry about survival. I'm now on to prosperity, things like luxury, or, we've gone beyond survival. That's the real measure of wealth. How far beyond survival have you gone? On the other side, you've got things that can't really measure wealth, because if you're hungry and you can't afford food because you don't have whatever the currency or the money that you need to get it today is, and we live in this abundant universe, you might have a cell phone, you might have a TV, you might have free housing, but if you can't afford food or basic supplies or, survival necessities, you're not wealthy. So there's ways that there's disparity in income and there's wealth gaps that get measured differently across civilizations and time. That we have to understand, okay? When you create caste societies and there starts to be stratification and you have too many haves and too many have-nots, you have too few masters, too many slaves, when all the balances get out, there can be cognitive dissonance. Market forces are not at stasis. They're not balanced. But at the same time, you're being told they are. Like in America, the American dream, go pursue the American dream. Yet the vast majority of people under 40 are locked out of home ownership, right? It's very difficult to buy a home if you're under 40 and you followed the sage advice of go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and all of a sudden you find yourself with like an IT degree making just over minimum wage, and you're 30 or 40 or 50 grand in student loan debt for your computer software degree or your computer IT degree. It's like Yeah, and housing in your area, average house is $600,000. Good luck. You're locked out, right? You'd have to change career. You'd have to do a whole new thing because the path led to that kind of dead end because the stratification has started to increase. So you have to understand there's a reality out there and then there's a narrative. Every side has a narrative and every side has solutions to whatever reality is, right? How do we continue to manipulate reality to our will? That's tale as old as time. Okay. So now introduce our American system. There are some things that are deceptive about it. While we have unbelievable amounts of technology, while we have distribution of what we would consider, luxury goods, even poor people have smartphones. Even poor people have big screen TVs, right? Even poor people have access to what 100, 200 years ago comparatively is mind-blowing to us. So a rising tide, absolutely. But there's a whole nother world going on. You see, there's always an adoption of things. When Chairman Mao and Putin were on stage and they were caught in the hot mic saying they were going to live to like 160 years old or something stupid like that. I got a big screen TV, but I'm struggling with corn syrup and glyphosate in my oats. I'm not living to 160 years old with the glyphosate in my diet. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what do they got going that I don't have? It's the technology gap. It's the income gap. The disparity is actually getting farther and farther away. I've said this 1,000 times. Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, if you listen to their speech, took out their annoying voices, both of them, and just went down bullet points. What are the problems they see in society and in the economics of our country? Now, on the big bullet points, they agreed on almost everything. That's why Bernie Sanders got so popular, and that's why Donald Trump got so popular, because they rejected the cognitive dissonance of believing the gaslighting of the media and the failed politicians. And they said, that reality that you see, that you struggle to square the peg in the round hole, is you're right. You're right, middle America. Jobs are missing. You're right, our economy is hollow. You're right, that the American dream is going over the horizon. You're right. They acknowledge the truth premise. So here's Bernie Sanders, who's in sitting in the Senate, and we criticize Bernie Sanders, right? We totally get his game. But the thing about Bernie Sanders is he's nothing if not authentic. So here's Bernie Sanders. Again, he's not wrong here. If you disagree with his premise, that's fine. But I believe that the data, the facts will prove him right here. We can disagree on the solution, but you have to understand that if you want to fix anything, you have to get to the truth. This is the truth, and this is something that has to be addressed.
Today, we have more income and wealth inequality than we have ever had in the history of the United States of America. Remember the Gilded Age of Rockefeller and J.P. Carnegie? Much worse right now. So if you're going to talk about saving Social Security, you got to throw that into the hopper. And what Senator Warren was saying in legislation that I have, which is called the Social Security Expansion Act, is not complicated. And you want bipartisanship? Republicans support it outside of here. In the real world, Democrats support it, independents support it, not very complicated. Should Elon Musk pay the same percentage of his income, which he doesn't pay anyhow, into the Social Security Trust Fund as a fireman or a nurse? Anybody think that makes sense? Nobody does. And the bottom line here is at a time when the people on top have never, ever had it so good and seniors are struggling, we've got to do what senior advocates for years have said, lift that cap.
You know what's funny is
today we have
so the way Social Security works is and Medicaid is you pay up to, I think it used to be, I don't know what the number is now, but it used to be like $90,000 a year. Well, when it was created, $90,000 a year, right? Now we get back to the economy and how broken it is. Okay, I'm going to show you this I'm going to show you how bad this is, because you have to acknowledge the truth before you can do anything about presenting a solution. So Benny Johnson posted this. This is great. Again, these caps, and what Bernie Sanders is saying is he's not wrong. Now, we can disagree and argue about Social Security and whatever, but he's totally right. The disparity in wealth now, today, is worse than in the Gilded Age. So maybe Donald Trump's right. We are headed for a golden age. To the moon, baby! We're going to have a huge stratification. All right, but here's the thing. I graduated from college in 2007. So if we go back 20 years, 2006, I'm in the midst of college. I've got a child, I've got a young family, okay, and I'm preparing for the future. In 2007, I've got to get a better. Well, this is about as good as you guys are going to see it. Maybe I can. That help you there? That'll help out. Okay, so let's end this debate right now, says Benny Johnson. If you are 20 years old. Now, I'm 42, so, this is my adult life now. So from when I became an adult and totally responsible for other people's lives, I started to have dependence on my tax return 20 years ago, okay? So 20 years ago, I had to actually start paying the bills, 100% on my own. Everything has gotten 100 times more expensive. Not 100 times, it's 2 times, it's 100%. Anyone telling you otherwise is lying or retarded. And forgive Benny's grammatical 100 times versus lying or retarded. It's 2 times. He actually got fact checked down here. He got a little, community note. But nonetheless, anyone telling you otherwise is either lying or retarded. Facts don't care about your feelings. Steak per pound. 2006, the average price was $5.05. 2026, $12.88. That's 158%, 155% increase in 20 years. Ground beef per pound, $2.20 per pound to $6.87 per pound. That's a 210% increase in 20 years. Chicken per pound, 2006, $1.05, 2026, $2.05. That's a 95% increase. Fish per pound, $6, 2026, $12. That's a 100% increase. A cup of coffee, 2006, $1.75, 2026, $3.75. That's a 114% increase. Eggs per dozen, 2006, $1.31. 2026, $2.14, increase of 63%. Tomaste, we should do this in reverse. Box of cereal for Bitcoin, 2006, $3.50, 2026, $5.50. That's only a 57% increase. Bottle of Coke, $1.15 to $2.25. That's a 96% increase. Check this out, fast food. $2 to $3 in 2006 for a burger at a fast food restaurant. 2026, $12 to $14, and you all know that's the case. That's a 500% increase. Sit down restaurant, $9 to $13. 2026, $23 to $35, 169% increase. Gas only went up 57%. Average used car went from 10,500s. Then we had cash for clunkers. Now the average used car is 26,000. It's 141%, 48% increase. Movie tickets, 106. Rent, 131%. Average home price up 98% in 26. Yes, life has gotten more expensive. Inflation is a function of government spending and many other things. Forever wars, an obscene welfare state, mass migration, and fraud is destroying affordability. See, this is the thing that you have to recognize is this is the reality. Right? When you're out there and you're like for me, I have lived this multiple occasions. I have had the opportunity, because I've been a small business owner over the years, I've had the opportunity to determine how much money I was going to make out of businesses that had significant enough cash flow that I could take a fairly good range of money. And like every small business owner, you're strategizing with taxes. Certain expenses get paid by the business, certain expenses get paid by the household. I was very strict on the corporate veil, so to speak. Never bought groceries with business money, always took a paycheck to then buy personal expenses and vice versa. But there's occasionally things that, there's benefits of owning a business, like your cell phone could be paid for by the business, stuff like that. So I was always very careful about that. And so I'd have my wife, she manages the household books, and there'd be a number. What's the number that I need to make sure gets into the bank account every month? What do I need to tell the bookkeeper to make my paycheck out to be? I get to pick what that number is. So, and by the way, we're not getting rich at home. The objective is to get rich in the business because I can reinvest in all that stuff in the business, and I got more tax advantages over there. So it wasn't like we were trying to save money. I had a business that was running and cash flowing. Okay. So what's the number? So she'd give me a number, and we'd put that, and you would think your bills will stay the same, but no, prices go up, utilities go up, chicken goes up, beef goes up, and not by a little. Right? In 20 years, to get that type of increase every year, And sometimes in spits and spurts, you're going up 5% on this, 5% on that, 5% on that. You know what I mean? You got to do 5% a year over 20 years to get to a 100% increase in the price of something. Every year, I'd get a new update on a number. I'm like, what expenses have changed? I've lived in the same house for 16 years. Right? I eat the same amount of food every day. I've had the same number of mouths to feed for this many years. Like, what is going on with these expenses? That's it right there. Acknowledge the truth. Acknowledge the truth. Everything in the world around you, the prices are running away. So now you get to the debate over what's the solution. Trump comes in, he's got his solution. The socialists come in, Bernie Sanders come in, and they've got their solutions too. We've got to be careful about which solution we take. In the Midwest and across the country the last couple months, and especially this week, we had more primaries, right? And we're having that face-off. In the primaries, it's the establishment of the party versus whatever extreme wing. The Democrats versus the DSA, the Republicans versus MAGA, rhinos versus MAGA, that's in the primary, those battles are taking place. And then afterwards, everybody's supposed to hug and hold hands and move on. Well, the Democrats are starting to wonder if they actually want to hug and hold hands with these Democrat socialists, right? They're starting to wonder if, I'm a blue dog Democrat, and I have a feeling, I'm going to get stuck supporting stupid things that are bad for me because we have to hug and hold hands in the Democrat Party. So JD Vance is talking about the coalition that is being built around socialism. And this is incredibly important for us, right? Because I think what's happening is there's these flip-flops that happen. And the core of the middle class that the Democrats were supposed to care for years and years and years, they were betrayed, and many of them have migrated over to more of a MAGA, except for the people that were really politically, ideologically labeled, right? Like, I am a Democrat. If you just vote and go, you just vote whoever. I've talked to thousands of people that are like, I vote bipartisan, right? Vote and go. But if you're a partisan and you're like a Democrat, there's a lot of partisans that are rethinking things. And so JD Vance is talking about up in Michigan, the El Saud, is that his name? El Saud, that won the primary for the Democrat Senate. There was something on here that Tomas Day wrote, and Tomas Day, I read it and I thought, I'm going to say it, and then I ended the video and I kept talking about something else. But this is absolutely critical, and I love that you're putting these quotes in here. George Orwell, the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. That's exactly it. So George Orwell's 1984, right? That's the thing. They want you to just don't believe your eyes. Take the vax. Don't take the vax. It's Trump will get political wins out of it. Okay, now that he's out, Biden needs the wins. Take the vax. Okay, people are dying. Well, blame Trump. It's like they've set it all up. Okay, so this is JD Vance sitting down with Laura Ingraham talking about Michigan and what the voters showed there. Okay. There's a lot of zeitgeist. There's a lot of media hype around socialism. It's so cool because you can offer these radical solutions. The revolution is very profitable. Okay. But JD Vance says, I think it's not as close as you
tell us. Well, I think it says a couple things. First of all, the base of the Democratic Party just wants radicals. It wants these DSA types.
All right.
Tell us. Well, I think it says a couple things. First of all, the base of the Democratic Party just wants radicals. It wants these DSA types. It wants people who hate even the idea of private property ownership. But it also, I think, tells us that that particular set of ideas is very popular in places you wouldn't expect. Because outside, he's this guy who holds himself out as a working class hero, as a guy who's going to fight for the working class. How does he fight for the working class? By flooding his state and his country with low-wage immigrants. Of course, those people will drive down the wages of the working class. And he also doesn't want to do anything to protect the Michigan auto industry. He has fought against the Trump tariffs that have saved the Michigan auto industry. So interestingly, as much as the media will hold this guy out as a socialist, as a guy who's trying to stand up for the working man, where did he do the best? He did the best among wealthy white liberals and among new immigrants to the United States of America. He basically represents the modern Democratic coalition, which is self-hating white liberals united to people who just came to the country for the first time and don't actually have the sense of appreciation for it that they should. Those are the people who are voting for Al Sayed.
The cognitive dissonance is driving their ideology. And it's the want to fix the cognitive dissonance. This is important. When the world's out of balance, humans, this is what's so unique about us. We look around and we go, how can we fix it? When the world's out of balance, we look around and how can we fix it? We are a species that is designed to bring order out of chaos. We are designed to do it. It is embedded in everything. We are a species designed to bring order out of chaos. So when you have an ordered system, like our system is, it's an ordered system, but the system is chaos. And what do I mean by that? You don't have to actually qualify to get a loan. You don't actually have to be low income to get free healthcare and free this and free that. You don't actually have to. It's out of balance. The cognitive dissonance. Even on the left, right? The premise that things are wrong, but it's the highly educated. They're on a different part of the spectrum, so their solutions appeal differently. And then the new immigrant who's like, yeah, I'll take free stuff. Who wouldn't? Okay. And so that is the modern Democrat coalition.
He doesn't have a constituency among the working class he pretends to represent.
She won the working class enclaves last night.
Exactly.
And he actually won the more affluent, more highly educated sections of the state. What does that tell us about education in the United States, especially at the university, college, and high school level?
Well, I think what it tells us is that a lot of young Americans were sold a whole promise at the elite universities in our country. And that promise is that they were going to be able to go to college, get a degree, and everything was going to work out fine for them. I think in reality, actually, a lot of universities sold these kids a bill of goods. They gave them a lot of debt. They did not give them useful skills or a useful credential. And a lot of these kids are very angry. But that really is, if you look at the data, Laura, the base of the Democratic Party today is downwardly mobile, hyper-progressive, well-educated people. People, I think, who were sold a bill of goods by universities.
Did you hear that? They're downwardly mobile. They went to college, they got good degrees, but now they're high in debt, which means they're downwardly mobile. They can never pay the debt. They're becoming the disenfranchised class. Now, did they eat the poison pill? The answer is yes. Listen, guys, I was in this group. I didn't go with them into the chow hall, okay, but I was in line. I was in college getting a social science degree, political science, but I have some unique little bug in me. I got my degree in 2 years and I was able to get through it fast enough that I maintained some sanity. But the thing is it's super easy to get on that trajectory. You've done everything right. You paid for college. You did everything right. You got your degree. And then 2008 hits and they're like, oh, by the way, no one's hiring. Welcome to the Great Recession. You can thank your baby boomer grandparents for this one, right? And over the next 20 years, by the way, all your prices are going to double. Good luck. Good luck keeping your wages up with the increase in the middle of the Great Recession that lasted for 7 years, right? And then when it took off, hope you're positioned because you're going to have all your market gains in 24 months. And if you're not positioned before that, well, then you're going to ride a flat up on top and, we're going to have the Biden administration again. So, and then all price increases are going to be fictional. This is a huge problem. Thank goodness J.D. Vance has acknowledged it. Trump was the first Republican politician to really acknowledge this problem.
Have a lot of debt, but not a good job to show for it.
But they say they can't afford a home. The average home ownership is up to like 42 years of age.
The average homeowner is the first time homeowner is my age. And when I first came into the marketplace, it was only like 2 years ahead of me. I've chased home ownership. Now I'm a homeowner now, but it wasn't always the case, right? It was hard for me to do. And I feel really bad for people kind of coming up behind because again, I had to be an entrepreneur to make it work for me. Sometimes I look at other situations, I go, man, that's hard to do. But in that complete broken system where what you're looking around and seeing is disorder and chaos and just dysfunction. So the dysfunction brings out that animalistic instinct to fix it. Like I said, we are a species wired to bring order out of chaos. It doesn't mean that the order we create isn't more chaos, but our intentions always feel good, right? And we're always trying to fix something. So this is, again, young kids. When you go study the Russian Revolution, what a great little, piece of history. Because we got to see the Bolsheviks and the communists, right? Eventually they fully called themselves communists. We got to see what their system would look like when it had complete and total control of all the means of production, of all of the natural resources, of all of the means of distribution, all of the machinations of law, all of the political capital. We saw what they would do with complete control over a nation that had been and could be and can continue to be self-sufficient and sovereign. Okay, we got to see how they did it from beginning to end. We got to watch their nearly 100-year rise. So it started out with Hegel in Germany and the Hegelian dialectic. And then that got taken by Karl Marx, and he kind of turned it on its head. And he said, no, actually, we need to create the crisis. We don't want to just use the crisis. We want to create the crisis. So he incorporated a little more Machiavelli into it. And then from there, you had a bunch of communes in Europe. You had the Paris Commune, and then eventually some of those people made their way over to Russia. Marx never made his way over to Russia. He was an old man at this point, right? These were young kids working off his manifesto. Karl Marx was the Bernie Sanders of the late 1800s, okay? The Bolsheviks and the Mensheviks were the Squad and the DSA. That's what it was. And Karl Marx communicated by letter, and I don't remember exactly specifically everybody, but with specifically individuals like Trotsky, Lenin, Stalin, etc. Okay, he communicated with them, kind of gave them directions, and they plotted in little coffee shops and private meetings to do everything they could to overthrow the Tsar. And they were, because there was disparity. You were a peasant or you were a nobility, right? There was a huge disparity there. At least that's what they thought. They were children of the aristocracy that had no meritocracy. Okay. They were the losers of their families that didn't stand to inherit everything by right and had no merit to be given opportunities by their families and by their master estates to do anything. So these were kids that were given a subsistence allowance because they were basically deadbeat college students and artists. So they were downwardly mobile. Their families were getting big enough and entrenched enough that they were not in the line of succession, and they didn't do anything worth investment from the family. They were downwardly mobile. They met in coffee shops and they conspired to overthrow that system because it didn't work for them. It also didn't work for the serfs, the peasants, right? Who were kind of tied to the land. They were not property of whoever was in charge of the land. Okay. Unlike slavery, if the slave owner bought a new plantation, he could take his slaves with him. In Russia, if a person expanded their lands, they only got the people the people were part of the land. They were connected to it, right? They were bound to it. They were actually prevented from leaving the land. If the nobleman sold his land, a new nobleman came in and took over the land. The serfs were given little plots. They could have their garden. And then what the rest of their day was dominated by whatever the landowner, who basically ruled by force, and religion, told them to do. It worked. It wasn't the best system. Nobody liked it. Nobody wanted to be a serf. Definitely could be improved. And there were improvements being made. There were rights being extended to the peasants, right? There were, all of a sudden, it was illegal to murder a peasant. Yeah, big deal, actually. Okay, the fact that they made it illegal. It was actually a big deal when they made it illegal to kill slaves in America too. It was a big deal. It was like, he can't be. What if I want to punish him? It was illegal to rape a serf. Yeah, it was illegal. That was a big deal when they made it. It was a big deal. So there was progress happening, right? Human rights kind of bubble up. Okay, there was progress happening, and some things like, I don't know, giving books and education could have really helped the peasants, but instead, the Bolsheviks, who were downwardly mobile, they wanted to avoid being peasants. So they thought, we know how excessive the wealth of our families are, of the class we're connected with. Let's take it. And they conspired, and eventually they did. And they did it through psychological operations. They did it through, pamphlets and things like that. And they created a scenario of plausible believability when the economic situation in Russia, due to primarily World War I and some of the wars at the end of the 1800s, had basically run them broke, and they were able to take over Russia, and they had to murder to do it. I mean, this was not a clean path. They made conscientious decisions that the ends justified the means. They made those decisions. And then once they got control, then you see the history of the Soviet Union, the Volodymyr starvation, the persecution, all that stuff. We're seeing that today. They're doing it instead of in coffee shops. They're doing it over Zoom. Okay. These are
the Democrat Socialists of America. These are their national people here. And what they're doing is they're talking about the requirements for anybody they're going to endorse as the Democrat Socialists. Guys, these guys are not non-influential. They're winning primaries. They're beating incumbents. Like, they're going to take some seats. If you try enough times, eventually a blind squirrel finds a nut. Eventually you're going to have a Republican with a scandal that people can't vote for, and we're going to end up getting some of these people in. Okay, we have them already behind the gates. So they're also going through their little website with details of what they want. There's 3 things they want. We'll talk about them when we get back here.
This is actually something that we committed to at convention, having our endorsed candidates supporting the program. It's a requirement now. And so that'll be incorporated into our endorsement process.
It sounds so radical, like abolish the Senate, abolish the Supreme Court, like et cetera, but it's not. Like, those are the things that need to happen.
So whenever people are like, oh my God, they want to get rid of the president, I was like, well, I don't know what we would call it in the future. We could call it the head honcho of whatever, it's like we might not have a president. This is actually something that
we might not have a president. We want to get rid of the Senate. We want to pack the court and change it. I don't know. We might not have a president. We might just have a head honcho. I don't know. Maybe a top comrade. What? Maybe a king. Who cares? These people, they're crazy, right? It sounds crazy. No. History has shown again and again, these people will do nothing to stop at power, including murder. They will do the things that you think are off limits. They will do the things that you won't do. They will weaponize your virtue because they know you'll lay down and take it, because you've offered no resistance up till now. And that's what happened with the Bolsheviks. The king was being advised, like, if you go after these people, you'll look bad. People will think you're a bad czar. And by the time he finally got around to trying to censor him, it was too late. Now, I'm not saying that censorship was the solution, but they weren't offering any solutions. They should have made some more progress. In fact, they kind of did. They definitely advanced progress pretty quickly. But when they took over and they started killing people, they industrialized the nation, but they starved people to do it. They persecuted people to do it. It was not a good thing, right? It was not a good thing. And here's the struggle with this. That ideology, communism, is alive and well in China, right? It's totally alive and well, at least the dictatorship part of it. And this is something that Pete Hegseth reposted. Okay, so I want to show you this. So this is a report that came out by Natalie Winters. And Pete Hegseth reposted this, and he says, and people wonder why it's important to A, ensure civilian control of the military, and B, depoliticize the general officer corps. So Natalie Winters, in here, she goes, the American generals formed a secret back channel with the CCP intelligence front that instructed them, quote, we wish you would advocate positions favorable to China. Some ended up on China's payroll. So here's a picture of one of their casual meetings. These are American generals meeting with Chinese generals casually. Okay. And there's a whole bunch more to this. So this report came out basically showing that the Chinese have co-opted our military generals. And it goes on and on and on here. Absolutely stunning, right? These people will stop at nothing to do power. They'll stop at nothing to corrupt these people. Okay. As these communists are getting nominated, it's scary. Stephen Miller is saying that Americans, because of where these communists are rising up in the Midwest and whatnot, that Americans are going to defeat them. Yeah, but this is problematic. Okay. We got to get working on this problem real directly, and we got to get Republicans on board, and we got to figure out a way to neutralize or eliminate these rhinos that are similar to these generals that would go meet with the Chinese. They're way too complicit in bad things.
Well, I think they're going to be severely challenged come November as they've continued to nominate these true communist candidates. So look at Michigan. Right? El Sayed. They're nominating communist candidates for office. The center of this country, the middle of this country, the mainstream of this country is going to thunderously reject the Democrats' embrace of communism. And the Sayed, you also have somebody, as you've talked about this evening, Sean, who campaigned, who embraced, who courted the endorsement of this execrable, heinous, deplorable, monstrous Hassan Piker, somebody who has celebrated assassination culture, and somebody who has said that America deserved 9/11 Sean, you're from New York. How much time have you spent, Sean, with the victims and the families, the police officers, the firefighters after 9/11?
A lot.
To have someone running for Senate who's going to associate with that kind of evil? And where is Schumer? Where is Jeffries? Where are any of the leaders of the Democratic Party? They're supporting it. They are embracing it. They are allowing it. Sean, we spent decades fighting a Cold War with the Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I choose my words carefully, but I'm going to say this tonight. Sean, that Cold War has come home. It's here in America. This is the biggest, greatest, most existential struggle this country will ever face, Sean. Because if communists get control of House seats, then Senate seats, and governor's mansions, the American dream that for 250 years our heroes bled and died for is gone. And it won't come back because they will never let you get it back. President Trump is the only thing right now standing between the American people and that abyss.
That is the scariest thing to recognize. And he's absolutely right. Donald Trump understands how to use the presidency to block things and to use the bully pulpit. It is very true, right? I believe it was Lennon who said, let me educate the children for 4 years and I'll plant a seed that will never be uprooted. And that's exactly what has happened. The seed was planted. It's infiltrated. The long march through the institutions has infiltrated our institutions. If we're smart, we can change things. The cognitive dissonance can be used to our advantage. Donald Trump used it to his advantage. We have to use it to our advantage. You have to recognize things as they are and see that things can be fixed, right? So it is possible. It is possible to do that. Like talking to my friend Glenn Beck, Glenn Beck, what do you think about this? Do you think that things can get turned around? It would have been better if I hit play right away.
Remember yesterday it was a blowout? Day before it was a blowout?
Uh-huh.
Everybody had him winning at 90%, 99%. Everybody said it was a cakewalk for him. Turns out, just with what we know today, only 20,000 different. What does that tell you? That tells you that
yeah, it's 20,000 different in the Democrat primary, but it is in Michigan. Did they cheat? Is there any cheating? We know that Michigan's got one of the worst election systems there is. So that could be a really close election.
People of Michigan are not all on board with socialism. In fact, do we have the Chairman Mao pew pew pow pow theme? Period.
Mao's pew pew pow pow. 40 million starving, still they bow. But the trains ran on time, they shout somehow. Mao's pew pew pow pow.
So, I'll give you a communist update today. Not everybody in Michigan is on board. Not everybody is saying, oh, I got to have me some of that communism. If all I could do is just get into some red-green alliance, everything would be set. No, apparently not. It's close. It's close, which means you've got a guy that a lot of people on the Democratic side feel like, I don't think I could go his way. What does that mean if you have Mike Rogers coming in? Is this guy so polarizing to the Democrats? Are there enough Democrats to wake up when you get into a general that he'll lose by a landslide? I don't know. That's, it's something the communists are going to have to answer and face for themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're going to see if they're going to win or lose. But that is interesting, right? The Democrats, this DSA candidate barely squeaked by the establishment one, at least in the primary. Are there going to be enough of those people that voted against him in the primary that will go and vote for the Republican? Are there going to be enough that were like, well, I would have voted for a Democrat, but only this type of Democrat, right? Someone who's like an American. Because in fairness, it sure seemed like that. I can't remember her name, but she got the cutest little Michigander accent. We're just doing this. I can't even say it. It's just so cute. But anyways, they would vote for her. Mike Rogers is a very viable candidate for sure. So it'll be very interesting. We'll see. We will see. So that's good. Now, one of the things you have to recognize, again, the weaponization of the virtue, the recognizing that the institutions are really already captured and you can't really trust them, even with Donald Trump in charge. Here's Catherine Herridge yesterday, John Solomon released a report. Some more classified documents got released. So let's read through this. FBI records confirm the exfiltration of 633K voter files, including non-public information. Now, the crazy thing about this story is it's not a foreign government hack. This is how incredibly vulnerable all of our election systems are. This story is Maricopa County. Maricopa County breach was investigated by FBI, according to an August 4th letter by FBI Director Kash Patel. The FBI confirmed that voter records were illegally extracted from the site and identified a suspect who admitted the crime, illegally scraped 633,000 voter files that included 930 that were sensitive, non-public data. The United States Attorney's Office for the District of Arizona, the Arizona Attorney General's Office, Maricopa County, Arizona Attorney's Office, and the Pinal County Arizona Attorney's Office were presented with the findings of this investigation. All declined to prosecute this matter. Every single one of those departments in Arizona knew that the election system was vulnerable. They got hacked. They got hacked. And not only did they get hacked, they found the guy. We're going to talk about that in a second. So they knew it. They absolutely knew it. And they all let the 2020, 2022, and 2024 election go on. And if you were, all of these people remained silent. If every single one, first of all, they could have prosecuted, and the prosecution would have let the world know this happened. But instead, they declined. They all declined to prosecute this matter. They were all in on it. Context: voter files can be used for identity theft, fraudulent voter registration, as well as targeting individuals for blackmail. To date, the Transparency Task Force has not identified evidence votes were changed. Okay, so what happened here was the data got sent taken. So the county recorder's office notified the FBI Phoenix that an intruder that had scraped approximately 630 voter records, including 930 sensitive file voter records from the MCRO's website. The intruder used a single IP address to scrape the data. Subsequent investigative activity indicated that the IP address was assigned to, and it's his address. So they show up at the house. After being advised that he was not under arrest and free to leave at any time, he opted to stay for the duration of the search and speak with agents. They had a warrant to search the property. He admitted to developing a PowerShell script to scrape data after discovering the vulnerability of the MCRO website. After the MCRO fixed the vulnerability, he got scared. Okay, he got scared. Oh, where's the rest of the thread here? So after he fixed the vulnerability, it was Natalie Winters that posted a different thread. So after he fixed the vulnerability, he got scared. And so then he went on to say this. So then he went on to say, around the beginning of October 2020, he improved his PowerShell script and ran the script again up until around November 2nd, 2020, when Maricopa fixed their firewall. Blank stated he probably would have continued this activity if the flaw went unfixed. He knew Maricopa was aware of this activity because the script provided the error message and could no longer generate requests. Between 1 million and 2 million voter registration records were extracted to text files stored on the person's hard drives, which estimated to be 4 gigabytes of data. Records also saved to Google's cloud account. He initially received an adrenaline rush, but realized he made a huge mistake with regret and remorse. He did not intend to sell the information because it was publicly available. He could have been purchased the records, but he wanted to obtain the information for free. He realized the gravity of the situation, became scared. He said how he knew he would get a visit from law enforcement. He expressed that looking for vulnerabilities was a hobby and described himself as a hacker or tinkerer, stated that he was not, that has not conducted recent activity hacking in which he would like to confess. However, Blank's first highlight moment happened while meeting with in college, when he was hacking activity led to a meeting with the dean. He used several hacker tools and scripts which were stored on USB drives to include curl, invoke, web request, and mega products download explorer. So it just goes on and on. He says he scrubbed and formatted the hard drives of stored records and deleted any stored files from his Google Cloud. So he deleted the evidence after the fact. They declined to prosecute. He had a full admission that he had breached their records, and they all stayed silent. They all stayed silent. So on one hand, you've got Republicans that seem way too confident with this upcoming election. I mean, they want to scare you and motivate you to get out and vote and whatnot, but they're way too confident. Why is the Save America Act not passed? Why is all the political capital not getting behind, scrubbing these voter rolls and stuff like that? We've got breach after breach, disclosure after disclosure. It feels like the Republicans are playing with fire here. We have an insecure election apparatus, and you're relying on the election to flush out the communists. Catherine Herridge exposes the danger of this thinking.
Rogers really might have an opening here with all the points you just made, Senator. Liz, what's your reaction to this El Sayed win this morning?
Well, I think the senator's spot on in a lot of those remarks. And absolutely, he's talking about, Saeed is talking about this opportunity won't be available to anyone else. Well, if the likes of him get in, that's true. It will be destroyed. The American dream will be crushed. This is very dangerous. I was happy to see that it was closer than what the polling suggested, but I think because of the open primary, that's probably why. But this is playing with fire. I mean, President Trump just put out a post about the elections in Michigan. They are not secure. It's a very corrupt state. And you have essentially a communist here on the ballot. You have Jocelyn Benson, who's the current Secretary of State, running for governor. They're going to do everything to try to get her in that position. They'll probably try to do everything they can to get him in as well. So top priorities for Republicans: secure our elections and pass President Trump's agenda. Give Republicans something to vote for, because it is, I agree, if the election is going to be fair, I think Mike Rogers has a great chance. However, we need huge turnout. We need Republicans to be motivated by passing the agenda, give us something to vote for, and secure our elections as well.
Don't ask us to trust you. We need verification, because the reality, the cognitive dissonance, is this idea that we don't need verification, that we can trust any institution up to and including this administration. Okay, we've been burned by both sides one too many times. It's to the point now, right? If you were to remake Seinfeld, I love the show Seinfeld. I've watched it 1,000 times. Okay, and when I was a kid, I wasn't really allowed to watch it. It was way too adult. My parents didn't like it. It was bad values, no family values in Seinfeld. But it's like a show of a generation, and I was younger, but I have enjoyed it. I have enjoyed watching Seinfeld a lot. If Seinfeld was made today in New York, this is exactly what it would be like.
I feel like I have to dump her, George. She has a huge Palestine flag hanging in her bedroom, but I am hesitant because she is hot and definitely on the younger side.
Look on the bright side, Jerry. At least she's passionate about boundaries.
Mamdani has completely ruined this city, George. Palestine doesn't exist. Look at them, unemployed and misinformed.
Well, at least they're getting some fresh air, Jer.
The slogan of New York used to be so simple. You step into traffic, it's, hey, I'm walking here. Suddenly now you cross the street and it's Allahu Akbar. I mean, Mayor Mamdani, what is going on? We went from jaywalking to holy war overnight. Is there anything you can do to stop Mamdani?
Oh, come on, Jerry. Embrace the little guy. He's harmless. Look at those chubby cheeks. How can you stay mad at that smile?
So Mayor Mamdani says he's giving us free buses. Free buses. Have you been on a New York bus lately? It's not public transit. It's a mobile hostage situation. Who wants a free hostage situation? Mayor Mamdani is a complete failure, and his followers are getting so radical.
Tell me about it. I can't even eat a pretzel without a protest breaking out. Don't blame me. I voted for Sliwa.
And that's what's going on, right? If it was made today, that's what's going on. You've got total infiltration in New York. Oh, man, it's fun. It's fun to take a little break and laugh at stuff like that, because, again, you have to be completely serious. The truth of the matter is these institutions, our government, is infiltrated. There's nothing that can really be trusted. We have to verify everything at this point. And I mean this seriously, like on every single topic. You can't trust anything from the organ donors to the vaccine scoundrels to the FBI to the CIA to the EPA. Every single one of them has been involved in nefarious activity that has targeted we the people and our prosperity and our pursuit of the American dream. Period. End of story. That's the reality that we're in. So every action has to be verified. Everything needs to be looked at. Even storied institutions like the DOJ and the FBI under Donald Trump, the rot that had been happening in those institutions was exposed. Here's John Solomon on War Room with this report that came out about this Oxford comma deal and what was really going on there with the appointment of Mueller and everything. This thing, it has always stunk. We have known this since the beginning, but when we see in writing some of these details, what they were doing, it's really quite stunning, right? No more trust. We need to verify anything, and we need to go back and check the record.
Slow down.
Yeah.
There's one thing about Crossfire Hurricane and, Trump was a candidate and we were running a campaign, all that. And as horrible as that is, this is a sitting president of the United States. May of 17, I think was our 4th or 5th month in office. You're telling me that the commander-in-chief of the American Armed Forces had an investigation started by the FBI and senior officials of the FBI knew about it, that let's forget for the second the people said it's all phony and you can't do that. How could you possibly even commence it if you thought you had information without senior members of the Justice Department and maybe other people in the government, the CIA, at least going and running it by him? You're starting an investigation of the president of the United States saying, here's our theory of the case. He is a Russian agent. He is a Russian agent, guilty of treason at the highest levels, in cahoots with Putin. How possibly, this is science fiction, how possibly could that happen without other members of the senior members of the government approving? And this is why I say it's just not bad apples. This is they're institutionally. How could you do this, sir?
Yeah. The people who approved this were working directly for that commander-in-chief. The people who wrote the memo are James Baker, then the FBI general counsel, and then Bill Priestap, then the counterintelligence chief for the FBI, Pete Strzok's boss. The people it is sent to for approval are Rod Rosenstein, the acting attorney general for all things Russia, the deputy attorney general for everybody else, and the acting FBI director, Andrew McCabe, who takes over for James Comey after James Comey's fired. Now, let's go through that chain, because once that referral is made, once Oxford referral is sent to Rosenstein and McCabe, the next day, Robert Mueller is named a special counsel. Rod Rosenstein names a special counsel to investigate the possibility that Donald Trump engaged in obstruction of justice as a Russian agent because he fired James Comey. Now, you have to pause here. That in and of itself is an amazing string of events. But we have to add something to it that maybe our readers and our viewers have forgotten. Rod Rosenstein is the person who fired James Comey. He wrote the firing memo. He knows at that time, when he takes Oxford comma and upsizes it to Bob Mueller, that they didn't fire James Comey because of the Russia collusion case. They fired James Comey because he violated department rules when he closed down the Hillary Clinton email case. The man upsizing this is the man that knows it's not true.
The man upsizing it knows it's not true. In Maricopa County, every single law enforcement agency in that county knew their system had been compromised and attacked, and they did nothing. The guy who knew why Comey was fired, that it was all bunk, upscaled the investigation. And the thing about it was specifically looking at Donald Trump, right? They sold it to us like, we're just looking to see if Russia colluded. No, they weren't. They were looking to prove that Trump was a Russian agent, and they knew he wasn't. They knew he wasn't from the very first second. Donald Trump, if I asked Donald Trump, what would happen if we had fair and strong elections? What would happen?
If you had fair and strong elections, they would lose 25% of their base. They would never be elected again. And I'm trying to explain that to Republicans, but some of them don't quite understand it. They don't understand it because they're good people. They're good people. They don't know how crooked these people are. I've dealt with a lot of crooked people in my life. They don't know how bad these people are. We got to get the Republicans to be tougher.
Look at what he said there.
How bad these people are. I don't know how crooked these people are. I've dealt with a lot.
Listen,
They don't understand it.
They don't
Because
understand.
they're good people. They're good people. They don't know how crooked these people are. I've dealt with a lot of crooked people. in my life.
Weaponization of your
They
virtue.
don't know how bad these people are.
They don't get it.
We got to get the Republicans to be tougher, especially in the Senate.
I learned this going through my J6 case. I learned it was like, it would be so easy for them to go, you know what? You don't matter. You're not important. You could just go home, like pay a fine, go home, live your life, go be a good person. We scared you straight. I totally could have done that at any point. They put me in jail. I have 5 kids at home. They took me from my family. Like, you can't discount this. I've spent a lot of time just trying to like, okay, you know, there's natural reaction. I went to a protest, went to a riot, I got involved, you know, these are the consequences. I swallowed it. I accepted it, literally accepted it. Okay. But it was wrong what they did. It was a moral outrage what they did. It was wrong on so many levels. And I'm very fortunate that my family made it through. There's a lot of families that didn't. And the fallout will continue for years and years and years in each of those individuals' lives. You don't know how bad these people are. It's interesting to me when I talk to, individuals that just don't get it, right? Like I have a Ghost phone, and I've moved away from Apple for my cell phone activity, and I don't have any apps. I mean, I have very limited apps, and I do sandboxing. I do all this stuff. And it's like, why do I go through this effort? Who cares? Who cares? Listen, until they take all of your data that is totally benign in your mind and turn it around on you, you have no idea how it can be used against you. But it's not just that it can be used against you to persecute you for an alleged crime or something like that, or regulate you or anything. It also can impact you economically, right? The fact that your phones aren't secure and we're ignorant of this stuff impacts you significantly. I was at a Republican meeting, and a guy was going around and he was trying to get everybody to get on Discord servers so that we could have strategizing sessions. I'm like, Discord is the most insecure thing you can think of. I personally know people who can hack into any Discord channel. It's a Microsoft product. There's backdoors into it. There's no security in Discord. It's just obscure. That's all it is, right? But if you have Discord, you're familiar with it, you know how it works, and a lot of hackers use it, okay? Discord servers are like not secure or safe in any ways. And he wants to have political strategizing meetings in that environment where you have advertisers advertising and things like that. What if you had a algorithm, for example, that said that anybody who's a Republican is going to spend more money on anything that has this concept of variable pricing, right? What do they call it? Dynamic pricing. So imagine if the algorithm said all Republicans are going to pay more for all their goods because we want to drain their economic resources. Oh, you don't think that could be done? It's being done right now, and it's not even that big of a deal. Listen to this about your data in your phone and how it gets used against you. This is not just about you versus the government. It's everything that can be done with this information.
Really overcharging us based on your personal data and what they think they know about you. It's price gouging, predatory, and evil. So I decided to fight back and trick the data into giving me lower prices. And my first step was to become someone else, or I guess something else. So I used the Wyoming corporate loophole and hired a registered agent to set up an LLC on my behalf to hide me from the system.
That's that extra layer of privacy you're looking for.
I named the new entity after someone that looks like they would have less money than they actually do to trick big data into thinking I'm poor, therefore I have less money to spend. So I named the new entity Frank Reynolds, which I could then get a credit card for, which I then used to buy the cheapest possible smartphone, which costs only $20, or I guess it's changed to $30 since filming this. It's called the Track Phone, which is perfect because I wanted this phone to track everything I do. So I went to the lowest income zip code in Minnesota to activate the phone and opted in to all tracking options. But I needed to give this phone data to trick these pricing algorithms. So I made a Craigslist post seeking an improv actor to portray someone with the lowest intent to purchase everything. And I can't emphasize this enough. I found the perfect person.
Hello, Comrade Tripp here.
That's his actual name. So we arranged to meet at a parking lot. That's when I gave Comrade Frank's track phone and Frank's credit card, and Comrade was now Frank Reynolds. Frank Reynolds, LLC, at least. And his mission was to trick the phone and all of the data watching him into giving him a better deal than me. What he didn't know is that I would also be watching him, so I could figure out exactly what he did. He downloaded the MTA bus app, but he didn't actually buy a ticket and instead took the bus for free to Dinkytown, where all the poor college kids live, signaling to data brokers that he really didn't want to buy anything. He then went into McDonald's, where he downloaded the app and Googled cheapest item at McDonald's, and then again didn't buy anything and just asked for water.
Hi, I just wanted a water.
Water?
Yeah, there's, please.
For 4 hours, Frank went business to business, asking and searching on his phone for free stuff.
I was wondering, how much would just a cup of brown rice be?
Just a cup of brown rice is free.
Oh, okay.
The only thing he actually bought was a single banana from the Target app and ended up giving it to these guys.
Hey, did that guy just give you something?
Oh, just give me a banana. Yeah.
Oh, cool. That's nice.
Then we met up back at the parking lot to see if his prices would finally be cheaper than mine.
We're going to test the Uber, right?
Yeah. Okay, go from here to Union Depot.
Yeah, about $3 cheaper for Uber X.
So that phone is $3 cheaper?
Yeah.
On average, Frank's prices on Uber were 11% lower than mine. Comrade was a genius.
Oh, here you go.
What's this?
Yeah, don't never pay for sugar.
And this whole thing was just step 2 in a 3-part plan where I tried to trick big data into giving me a better deal than my other self. It's a whole YouTube video where I actually ended up getting an even better deal than this, so you'll have to go check that out. Sorry.
This dynamic pricing, charging Americans different prices for the exact same service or items, is happening way more than you think, and way more than I thought, actually. So here are some concrete examples of companies that are doing this right now. They're using dynamic pricing. Instacart is a strong example, but keep in mind, they got caught very, very publicly, and then they backtracked and said that they weren't going to do it anymore. I don't know if they still are, but they definitely got caught doing it. I've made multiple posts on that. Delta Airlines, they're doing it. Multiple other airlines are doing it. I know JetBlue is doing it. Amazon is doing it. Wow, what a shocker there. Uber and Lyft is both doing it. We have Target, they are doing it. Home Depot, Kroger. So even grocery stores are doing this. And here are some well-documented cases. There's some in airlines broadly. We know this. McDonald's, Starbucks, RealPage, Washington Post. So they're actually charging different subscription prices for the news. That's wild. Fast food places like Wendy's. So this is just going to keep happening. It's going to happen more and more and more. And we have to put a stop to it because nobody should be paying a different price just because your phone says that you have less money. And you know what's wild is I actually just made a post about this today. Senator Josh Hawley is in a hearing and they're doing one on JetBlue, and they were caught basically charging people more based on the data they collected, like if it was for a funeral. So this person here, they needed to go to a funeral. So JetBlue saw that in their data and they doubled the price of their airline ticket. Just listen to this.
This is one of the biggest scams in American history. Do you think that it would be fine to double or triple the price of an airline ticket for someone flying to a funeral? There was a disturbing incident that played out on Twitter, on X, that shed some light, I think, on how airlines are using surveillance pricing in real time right in front of us. I think I've got the relevant exchange over my shoulder here. You have an X user who in April, this is April of this year, posted that he had seen a $230 price increase in one day when he was booking travel for a funeral on JetBlue. $230 price increase. They're going to figure out how they can rip you off one person at a time. They're not going to charge you the same fare they charge your neighbor. They're not going to charge you the same fare as the guy sitting next to you in the seat. They're going to figure out how they can bilk you out of every dime they're willing to pay every time you step on an airline. And it's not just going to be them. It's going to be the grocery stores and everybody else until we figure out how to bring transparency.
Do we really want communism? Do we really want it? Do we really want it? Downwardly mobile people paying, the people richer than me, they can pay more. People poorer than me, yeah, they can pay a little less too. But, you know, for the most part, I get the discount. I get the redistribution. That is scary. That is scary. That is why it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you think, well, I'm not speaking out. I'm not a target. I play by all the rules. It doesn't matter. You can play by all the rules you think you're supposed to play by. Oh, but you're registered Republican. Oh, yeah, you pay 10% more for an Uber. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, your cell phone pinged around a Republican meeting? Oh, you went to that Republican picnic on Saturday? Oh, yeah. No, you're going to pay more for food at the grocery store. Your Amazon stuff, 5% more, 10%. Guess what that does over time? It even further stratifies society. 5% time after time after time over time means you're paying hundreds of percent more over the years. Absolutely devastating. The technology that we have can do unbelievable things. Thank goodness, and I've talked about this in weeks prior, there's an immune response happening. It's slow to happen. Okay? It's slow to happen. But one thing did happen. Remember how we were talking about flock cameras and dragnet surveillance? Well, one of the things that they've been doing quite a bit of is dragnet surveillance when it comes to cell phone towers and cell phone pings. This is a case that is a federal judge ruled that cell phone tower dump warrants, which allow police to obtain records for every cell phone that connected to nearby cell towers around a crime scene, are per se, that means on its face, unconstitutional under the Fourth Amendment as general warrants. Thanks to Sam Hughes for fighting to unseal these records. Federal investigators sought the warrants while investigating a series of alleged gang-related violent crimes in Jackson, Mississippi. They argued that comparing cell phone connections across multiple crime scenes would help identify unknown suspects. A magistrate judge denied the request. For crime, this is like the first time a judge is denying the request for these mass dumps. Now, commercial data, they can just go buy the commercial data, right? Look how they're comparing cell phone data for pings around certain spots. Imagine if they said, we want to know everybody who pings at this Republican meeting and the council meeting and this, and they want to figure out what Republicans are showing up at council meetings. And then they want to make sure you can't afford to go anymore. They want to make your life miserable. Absolutely, guys. This is totally in the realm of possibility. Oh, you went to a farmer's market. Oh, you went to that Amish place to buy some whole milk. Okay. Well, we're just going to make sure all your other groceries are expensive. Okay. They can calculate anything with this technology. Warrants is almost the least of our concerns. Except the only problem with the government is they got teeth, right? Worst thing that Target can do for me is charge me more money and advertise to me. It's the worst thing that's going to happen there. The government can come and arrest me. On review, Judge Reeves said tower dump warrants violate the Fourth Amendment because they require searching the cell phone records of countless innocent people to identify suspects. He called them modern equivalent of the general warrants the founders sought to prohibit. That is good. So we'll see if this case advances up through the court system, on appeal, or if it's taken on its face and becomes good law. Again, this is absolutely critical. Technology is making it possible for them to do all kinds of things. What you're seeing them do in law enforcement, eventually you could see these tools being weaponized. This is the awesome power of technology. So this right here is a clip. This is from Redmond, Washington. I used to live in Redmond. Okay. Redmond, Washington. This is a shoplifter that leaves, I think it was a Target with shoplifted goods. Call goes out, a police drone immediately gets deployed and starts tracking this guy, and they just drive up on him. This is crazy. I don't even think he knows he's being watched. I don't even think he knows he's being watched.
He's still running southbound towards Home Depot. And everyone, he's got a red Target bag that'll really stand out.
This
he's
is
running
crazy.
Towards it now. He's just passing that main road. Archers.
So they're tracking him. He goes to Home Depot, and whoop, there's a squad car right up on him. You can run through all kinds of scenarios, and Thomas Massey laid one of these out. Government doesn't like what you're doing, don't like what you're disclosing, don't like who you are. They build a little case on you and track you down. Boom. There you are. I mean, you don't even have to be necessarily committing a crime. The way they can just pop up on you like that, broken tail light. I had a friend in prison who got pulled over because he didn't have his license plate illuminated. He was coming from a gun range in the evening, indoor gun range, got pulled over. Officer shined the flashlight on the back seat, saw some rifles, asked the guy to get out of the car, saw the rifles. They had suppressors on them. He freaked out, got a warrant, searched his house. Everything was good except for one problem. One of the suppressors he had was in his wife's name, not his name. And so he had someone else's suppressor. That's what triggered the house raid. And then when they got to his house, he had a suppressor that hadn't been registered yet. That was a homemade one. It was a legal kit, but when you drill the hole in it, you're supposed to register it, and he hadn't registered it yet. Anyways, sucked up 5 years of his life in prison, and it turned out to be a huge dramatic deal. But he was absolutely convinced that he was targeted. His family's very political. His aunt is probably going to be the governor of Mississippi at some point. She's in the Senate, and he had gotten involved in some tax stuff that he felt like he was targeted. Let's put it that way. And in the end, the pullover was deemed unconstitutional, and there was a whole scenario there, but they basically forced him to take a plea deal because they were going to target his wife. So anyways, they can get real bad. So you've got to protect your data from these people, right? And there are things, again, there are always things that are good and bad. We want law and order. We want to bring order out of chaos. We got to figure out how to prevent people from ripping you off and crime. And there's just so much that's possible now. All these technological tools in the hands of immoral people or people that don't have your interest in mind, bad measures. Okay. The control grid is coming, whether we like it or not, because you got to stop the crime. You're going to need the control grid. And we're going to want that. But at the same time, if it gets weaponized and if American values are instilled into that system, like preventing, cell phone data dumps, that kind of thing, like we got to be careful. If the federal government starts having the same power that advertisers have to track you and stuff like that, which, there's really not much preventing them, a la the NSA, if they're not already doing it completely, we got to be really careful. The Clarity Act may or may not be coming, but the Clarity Act is a big part in all this. The Clarity Act for the general population, I think, is going to institute in more control grid. I'm not totally convinced it's the best thing, but I am totally convinced that the control grid is coming, and it's either going to be designed and run and supervised by the United States, or it's going to be run and supervised by China. There's really no other options. And if the AI race as well as the cryptocurrency race leaves our shores, all bets are off on any kind of outcome, and our ability to influence the outcome wanes dramatically. So on one hand, I want it to happen. It's probably going to be really good for dollar go up qualities of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. But at the same time, we have to be aware it's a double-edged sword. So we, the people, have to be sovereign. You can have a cell phone. Just know how to use it so you're not exposing yourself to lower prices at the minimum and possible persecution at the worst. So Clarity Act is coming. Maybe there's only a couple more days to get it passed. They say if it doesn't pass in the next few days, it might not get passed till 2030 or later. So it's either going to happen or it's not going to happen. And I think it's a critical part of Trump's remodeling the world economic order agenda.
I continue to work with Democrats every day on those very issues. And we worked into the night last night on the CFTC portion of the bill. We're working more on the law enforcement portion of the bill. By the way, we've gotten a lot of support from law enforcement now who see this as a pro-law enforcement bill. And the president agreed to an ethics provision that no president has ever agreed to. He's gone farther to protect ethics than any president in history. Yet the Democrats do want more. Their proposal is in front of the president now, and we'll see what he does.
No, it's a great point that you make. The president has actually tried to come to the middle and try to agree to some of these ethics. I mean, when we spoke a couple of weeks ago, I said, look, the president's just going to veto this. But in fact, he's tried to come to an agreement with Democrats on these ethics issues.
And if this bill dies, the Democrats are going to have to kill it. We're going to vote on it, so it can't die by no votes. And if it dies, it's going to be because the Democrats kill it. I've bent over backwards for 11 months to give them as much as we can possibly give them to regulate this industry. We want to onshore this industry. We don't want it to go to Switzerland or the UAE or Singapore. This is an important industry in the U.S. And we've tried to find the way to allow innovation to occur while still having a clear regulatory framework that this industry can comply with. And they want to comply. They want to be in the United States. Let's let them by passing the Clarity Act.
So we'll see. Again, I'm excited about it. I think the Clarity Act will be great. But just like everything, we have to see it for what it is, and we have to verify. We've got to, learn everything about the world around us and how to interact with it, because otherwise you live in delusion and you never know when the monster comes out from under the bed. right? You never know when you realize one day you're paying 10% more or astronomical percentage more for things because of some metric that, someone has decided you deserve to pay more. Be cautious. All right, folks, that's it for the show today. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it very much. Tomorrow's Friday. I look forward to seeing you then. Don't forget to visit 1776live.us, leftbehindwithout.org, politicalremodel.com, and takebackmycounty.com. And we'll talk to you guys